The Maternal Thread by C.J. Van Pletsen. The ghost's departure. The winter of 1911 settled over Potsdam like a shroud. Frost clawed its way across the orphanage windows, turning breath into fog and silence into ache. Inside, hunger gnawed at the boys more viciously than ever. Zuriel, now 17, had outgrown the dormitory beds and most of the rules that tried to cage him. He spoke little, ate less, and watched everything. The other boys didn't fear him because he fought. They feared him because he didn't have to. He understood them too well, their wants, their weakness, and he held it all in his silence like a blade not yet drawn. For nearly a year he had been working on his plan. By candlelight stolen from the chapel, he copied forged French travel documents with a calligrapher's patience. By day, he mimicked accents Parisian, Marseille, Algerian French, absorbing them like water into stone. He studied merchants in the square, repeated their intonations in the dark. He even acquired a tattered Legionnaire's field manual from a drunken soldier in a Potsdam tavern. The price was steep, 2 black eyes and a cracked rib. He considered it a bargain. Then came the morning he had chosen, the kind that never quite rose, just bled from gray to grayer, a fog-choked February dawn. Zuriel walked out the orphanage gates with only a knapsack, a forged identity, and a single letter sealed in wax. He left the letter with the church priest, who tried to ask questions. Zuriel's eyes stopped him cold. The envelope bore no name, only a line, "Your blood runs in me, that is enough." From Berlin, he rode 3rd class on a coal train to Paris, ducking inspectors, dodging uniforms. Hunger followed him like a stray dog. From Paris, he drifted south, way south, until he reached Marseille, where the Mediterranean hissed against the docks like a breathing thing. There, beneath the shadow of Fort Saint-Nicolas, he stepped into the world as someone new. In the cracked logbook of the Légion étrangère, he scrawled, Jean Renaud, born in Toulouse, age 21, profession, blacksmith. The recruiter squinted at him. "You sure you're French?" Zuriel met his gaze without blinking. "I'm sure I'm not German." A pause, then a nod, a stamp, a gate unlocked. "You're Legion now." Baptism in dust and fire. Algeria was nothing like he expected. It was worse. The air itself seemed sharpened, a blade drawn from the earth to flay men alive. The horizon rippled with false rivers, with mirages that promised relief but mocked the thirst that cracked lips and bled gums. Men died under suns that never set, not from bullets, but from the endless gnawing of heat, the starvation of water, and the madness that came when dust filled the lungs like cement. Those who did not fall from exhaustion broke beneath their own officers, crushed by commands barked with the detachment of men who believed pain was discipline and cruelty a form of order. The Legion was not mercy, it was the crucible of broken men. Water was rationed with the cold precision of a miser counting coins. Bullets, however, were not. The desert ate both without discrimination, spilling water into sand, swallowing cartridges into dunes that stretched wider than empires. The Sahara did not know pity, and pity was a language long forgotten by the men who marched there. Heat did the rest, but Zuriel endured. Not because he was stronger than the rest. There was always someone taller, broader, more battle-seasoned. He endured because he understood something most men could not. Suffering had a rhythm. Pain had a cadence, a pattern, almost a liturgy. He knew how to listen to it, how to walk within its dark corridors without letting it hollow him out completely. Suffering was not his enemy, it was his tutor. And so he watched. He listened. He learned. Each command drilled into him became a note in a wider symphony. Each lash of heat, each order that sent him crawling through dust, became a verse in a scripture he was slowly writing across the walls of his own soul. The desert was no less a cathedral than the stone halls of Prussia had been. Here, too, silence was sacred, and death was a constant priest, administering sacraments of blood and bone. By the end of 1913, the boy who had arrived nameless was no longer anonymous. He had earned the hard leather stripes of a corporal, earned them not through charm, nor by currying favor, but by moving with that unsettling steadiness that made men follow even when they did not understand why. His eyes' ice cut into flesh-saw angles, shadows, possibilities. His silence became command. By 1914, the world itself caught fire. Europe tore itself apart in a frenzy of banners, parades, and graves. Nations marched with brass bands into the furnace, and millions followed thinking it was glory. For Zuriel, the chaos was not a shock. It was confirmation. He led men into trenches near Verdun, where the earth itself screamed under shell fire. And the air was thick with iron, mud, and the stench of men rotting half-buried where they fell. When the smoke cleared, he led them again, this time back into desert campaigns the world barely acknowledged, scribbled on maps as blank stretches of ochre and forgotten names. France sent her unwanted sons to fight battles unlisted in newspapers. The Legion obeyed. War hollowed him. It did not strike suddenly. It wore him down, carving slowly, like a sculptor patient with marble. The soft places inside the memories of spires piercing northern skies. The faint recollection of candlelit prayers whispered in orphaned nights were eroded, layer by layer. What remained was sharper, harder. The boy who had once gazed upward at palaces now studied ridgelines for elevation, angles of fire, and escape routes. The dreamer became a tactician. He learned to calculate the wind before a shot, to read a man's death in his posture before he even pulled the trigger. In the trenches, he counted breaths to time artillery. In the desert, he counted stars to chart his survival. He no longer moved like a child of the earth, but like something half outside it, a revenant who measured existence not in days or years, but in distances, in ranges, in probabilities. The mask of Jean Renaud hardened until it became indistinguishable from his flesh. Among the legionnaires, his name moved from one mess tent to the next, passed like contraband, like a whispered confession. Le Fantôme d'Oran, the ghost of Oran. They did not fear him because he was cruel. Many were cruel. They feared him because he was right, always. His calculations never erred. His instincts never faltered. He could sense ambush before the first shot rang, smell betrayal before the knife was drawn. To men already half dead with exhaustion, this was not skill. It was witchcraft. It was judgment. And judgment terrifies the guilty. Men swore he did not sleep, that he walked the perimeter at night without lantern or sound. Some whispered that bullets bent around him, that even the desert itself recognized him and refused to claim his corpse. None could prove it, but none dared challenge it. A legend is not born of fact. It is born of fear, and fear was the one commodity the desert never lacked. And yet, in the rare hours when silence wrapped him in something that resembled solitude, the vow returned. That ember that had burned since the day he drew his first breath in blood, that fire still smoldered beneath the armor. It whispered with the voice of his mother's death cry, with the echoes of orphanage hymns, with the unspoken shame of palaces that had denied him. They will know who I am. The words beat like a psalm against his chest. They will remember He did not yet know how, or when, or by what blade or war. But the ghost was patient. He had walked through dust and fire and lived. History itself was now his desert, and he would move through it as he always had. Quiet, unshakable, watching, waiting. And so the ghost passed between battlefields and epics, a shadow among uniforms, a presence that seemed less like a man and more like inevitability. He did not chase history. He let it come to him, and when it did, he would strike.